Hello, how are you doing? Now in this video, we're going to work on the follow functionality. Okay, so the first thing we need to create a table in the database, and we can name that follows. So this table will have the user ID as well as the follower ID. So both of them will refer to the users, right? So one user will be able to follow another user and so on. So let's begin by creating this table. So in the terminal, so let's create this table. PHP artisan make migration create follows table dash dash create follows. Okay, so once that is created, let's work on that. So let's go to database migrations, this table follows table. So what we need here is we need two fields. Okay, so the first one will be user ID and then the next one will be follower ID. Okay, so table, it will be the type of integer, user ID, and let's make it unsigned so it can be negative number. Let's copy this, let's use this for follower ID, and it will be unsigned as well. And the next thing I want to do is I want to set the foreign key as well. So what this will do is if the user is following another user and the user is deleted, then that relationship also will be deleted, and so on, the vice versa. Okay, so let's work on this. Let's define this foreign key. Foreign user ID references ID on users table, and on delete we want to cascade, and we can do the same for the follower as well. If the user is deleted, his follow relationship is deleted, and if the user is following someone and that someone is deleted, then the relationship between this user and that follower is also deleted. Okay, so let's save this one. So let's go here and let's run PHP artisan migrate. Okay, now let's head over to user table, user model, and start working on the relationships. So let's create our first relationship and let's call it a following. Okay, public function following. Now this will be belongs to many relationship. Okay, so return this belongs to many. So first thing, we need to give the class name, right? So it will be app user, so belongs to this user class. Okay, and then we need to give the table name. Okay, so this will be follows table, the one we just created, and the fields also we need to specify, that is user ID and follower ID. Now for this to work, we need to create some other methods, because we can't follow ourselves, right? And once we follow someone, we can't follow again unless we unfollow and again want to follow, right? So let's create those methods. So the first one, let's call it is not. So is not following. So we will check this by return this ID. So the current user ID not equals to user ID. Okay, so we will be passing this user. So let's type into user model user. So this is not method we will use to determine the current user is not the user that is passed in. Whenever we want to make sure the user is not the user itself, the one that is currently signed in. Now let's create another method that will check if we are following. So if we are already following, we don't want to follow that again, right? So let's create that. Again, we pass the user model, and this one will return, and we're going to typecast boolean, so we want it to return the true or false value, right? And we can say this following, this method we created, this relationship, so this following, and we query the database using where the ID that matches the user ID, and we use this count method. If it returns count, means we are already following, so it will return true or false. Let's create one more method, can follow. So this method will make sure that we are not following ourselves. Public function can follow, and we type in the user model, and here let's create a if statement. So this will check. Now we can utilize these methods that we already created, so is not and is following. Okay, so if this is not, and we pass in this user, now using this we can check if this is we ourselves, then we want to return false, otherwise return true. Now in fact here also we want to make sure that we are not already following this user, so this is following, this is following this user and not. So this statement will make sure that if we are already not following that user, then we can follow, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So using these methods is following, we can use these methods in our blade template, uses index space, and we can show whether the follow button or unfollow button. So if the user is not himself, and if the user is not already following that user, then he can follow, otherwise unfollow. Okay, so we will do that in the next video, but I noticed we have one problem here. This is not method, is the method that belongs to the model itself. So what we need to do is we need to simply change this name to something other than is not. So let's change this is not the user. Okay, let's copy, and we have used this method here, so let's change this as well. Okay, if I save this and give this page a refresh, that's fine. Okay, so here we will use the button to show follow or unfollow using these helper methods we created here. Okay, so let's do that in the next video. Thank you.